We got to do votes just to decide who's in the voting? This is so stupid. Oh, Aokiji. Yeah, great point. Aokiji's a great point. Aokiji. Okay, who else am I missing? Zoro. I have to put Zoro. Is this the point we're getting? Top 5. 5. We're only getting 5 characters. Top 5. Are you kidding? I'm not putting Zoro. I'm not putting Zoro. Saul. So people are saying Saul. If Saul's been training for the last like 10 years, 20 years. Luffy versus Akainu right now, I think is very, very, very difficult to call. At least to me. Because Akainu is so hard to scale for me. Because Akainu, we only saw him against Whitebeard. Old-ass Whitebeard, right? Oh, it's the tightest. Oh, and Luffy's winning by 56%, the Gomu number. Guys, get your votes in. Get your votes in, because this one's really, really, really tight. I'm going to give it 5 seconds. So Luffy's got 56%, 55%. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Luffy's above Akainu. That's interesting. That's really, really interesting. I personally think that the Akainu that we saw pre-time skip, because I think Luffy right now would beat Aokiji clean. I think Luffy right now beats Kizaru clean. I think Luffy right now beats Green Bull. I think Luffy right now beats Fujitora. I think Luffy beats Aokiji. So it's like, okay, do I stop it at Akainu? I don't know, because Akainu is not that much stronger than Aokiji. I don't feel like Aokiji is that much stronger than Kizaru or Green Bull. Like, the sliding scale of the Admirals, it's hard to say where I draw the line. Here's what I think personally. I think that the Akainu at Marineford, I do think Luffy is stronger than that Akainu now. However, I think that just for pushing the narrative forward, and the fact that it seems like Akainu is set to be a significant foe to Luffy potentially in the endgame, potentially, I think it would be very interesting if Akainu, during the time skip, and very possibly during his battle with Aokiji, got stronger. You know, Haki blooms happen under extreme circumstances, etc. Perhaps Akainu had his, maybe he unlocked Conqueror's Haki. Maybe he unlocked Advanced Conqueror's Haki, right? Maybe Akainu right now is stronger than what we saw at Marineford. Maybe he's evolved into a very different threat since being, you know, since the Aokiji duel, since becoming Fleet Admiral, since taking up that role in the story. And that would make him a really, really fitting opponent for Luffy. The original trio of Admirals all have marked some sort of defeat for the Straw Hats. Yeah, that I talked about that, I think, in my Marineford videos. So like Aokiji at, what do you call Long Ring, Long Land. That was kind of the scare. I like the... with the original trio, I like the sort of... I don't know what the word is. Gradually increasing sense of... sense of trauma from Admirals that they experienced, because Aokiji was the first one that really fucked up the whole Straw Hat crew. I think the first guy to really fuck up the whole crew, right? Nobody else had really done that. So that's a traumatic experience in itself. Then Kizaru shows up, right? So like Aokiji's the first person to fuck up Luffy in front of his crew, okay? Then Kizaru shows up, and he just absolutely, he nearly ends the crew, right? He nearly kills, he separates the crew. He basically says, like, they could have all died, right? Obviously, Kuma's the one doing the separating, but Kizaru basically would have killed them. Aokiji spared them. Kizaru would have killed them, and he caused the crew essentially to be completely wiped out temporarily, right? I guess that doesn't really make sense. Completely wiped out temporarily. Be wiped out for the moment, right? Separated, 2-year time skip, stuff like that, right? And then Akainu's kind of the kicker in that he pulled the trigger. He killed Luffy's brother in front of him, right? So it's like a rising scale of trauma, right? Like, Aokiji, I could have killed you guys, but I spared you. Kizaru, I was going to kill all of you guys, basically. You were all dead. You got saved, right? Then Akainu actually kills Luffy's brother in front of him, right? No recovering from that, basically. Hoop says Akainu and Mihawk need to be above Luffy, not going to lie. Here's the thing. I don't see a narrative reason. You know why? It's hard to... Okay, here's the thing. Luffy's power right now, Gear 5th, his trump card, it's too wacky. It's so wacky that it's just like, it's hard for me to feel like he scales above certain characters. Like, I'm just like, would Luffy really, you know, Looney Tunes Mihawk? Would he really do that? But like, he did it to Kaido. But then Kaido adjusted. That's the thing. You know what was really important? Let me show you guys something. All right? Bro, I just joined the stream. What's with the Mihawk wank? Yeah, I don't know. It's just what we're doing right now. I think that's the mode we're in. I'm not pushing for Mihawk being above Luffy necessarily. I think it's a good argument either way. I think it's a good debate either way. Let me show you guys something. All right. So, this stuff happens, right? When Luffy first pulls out the power, right? When this initially happens, right? Like, the paneling, everything, right? Just the feeling of it, the feeling of Gear 5th. Like, everyone is holding their breath, right? Gear 5th, this is the pinnacle, right? Then you've got this crazy lightning raining down, like lightning coming down. Kaido looking up in fear. Or not in fear necessarily, but it's the sense, right? It's the sense of something way bigger than him coming down. And then just the imagery, right? This giant hand, like the hand of God coming down to grab him, lift him up, swing him around, like treat him like a toy, just beat up on him, right? This continues. Like, Luffy seems like a god here, right? It seems like he's broken reality here. And this continues for a few chapters. For a few chapters, it really seems like Luffy is on another level, to be honest, from Kaido. Like, whatever Kaido's doing to him in these chapters... Hold on. Let me zoom. Like, Luffy just keeps following up with, like, ridiculous stuff after ridiculous stuff. He's popping out of his eyes. He's a giant... You know, he's jumping rope with him and stuff like that. It's like Kaido hits him, doesn't really matter at all. Luffy comes back swinging, punches him in the... It's such absurd stuff, right? It's just over and over, it seems like Luffy's on a different level at this point, right? But, and especially I think like it kind of peaked with this chapter, where the chapter is ending. You guys remember this panel, like Luffy grabbing lightning and stuff like that, which is really epic, obviously. And Kaido, like the framing and everything, it seems like Luffy's on another level from Kaido. That's what it seems like for a bit. Then we get one crucial chapter, right? We get one crucial chapter, this chapter, where I think the clash begins. For a long time, the framing is entirely as though Luffy is just like running Kaido over. And then Kaido adjusts. Okay, so then Kaido adjusts, and then he starts smacking Luffy around. He starts overpowering Luffy again. It's kind of more so what we expect. It's not that long. It doesn't take place that long, but it's long enough. It's long enough. And then then they come out with their big clashes, right? They're ready to fight, etc., right? But this chapter, 1047, I think changed a lot of people's perceptions. Because... before this, it just seemed like Luffy was unstoppable because his power was so hard to comprehend, right? Like, we really didn't understand what the limits were. It just seemed like he was doing crazy cartoon shit and nothing could really affect him, right? If Oda had not included this additional section of Kaido having adjusted and talking about how Haki is more important and stuff like that, if that little bit was not included, right? And we skipped straight from Luffy doing all this stuff, grabbing lightning, throwing it, and then having the big clash with Kaido and the big punch and then overpowering Kaido, I think most people would just be saying, Luffy's above Shanks, Luffy's above Mihawk, Luffy's above Akainu, who the fuck can beat Luffy? But we got that crucial extra little section that Oda included, where it seemed like Kaido adjusted, Kaido reestablished that, like, he can keep up, he can even overpower Luffy Haki-wise, and that sways a lot of people, that kind of brings a lot of the concept and imagery of Gear 5th back down to earth. But you guys get what I'm saying? Like, we saw that the Gear 5th shenanigans they have a limit. Or like they can be combated even with Haki. Right? So that makes something like Luffy versus Mihawk more complicated, because I think most people would agree that Mihawk probably still has better Haki than Luffy, right? Shanks barely takes it over Dragon. I'm interested to see how many people were voting Dragon just to troll, but I think just because right now Dragon stocks are very low, I don't think it's illegitimate to think that this might actually be the case, that Dragon could be top 3 in the world right now. I think that that's entirely possible. It's Dragon. It's the main character's father. A lot of, like, portrayal does matter. Like, how much Oda's choosing to hype up characters matters a lot. It just does, right? That's usually why we get opinions about shit, right? And those opinions do often play out, right? Oda's hyping up Shanks a lot. That means something. So one thing that's really interesting is that the chapter that Oda, I think it's all the same chapter. So this chapter, Oda explains the Yonko. He explains the Yonko. This is a really big deal, right? He's explaining the Yonko, the emperors who rule over the Grand Line. He explains who Shanks is. And people are like, oh, wow. Luffy has a connection with red hair, right? Like, Robin knows who Shanks is, right? But someone like Nami doesn't, okay? So this is hype for Shanks, hype for the Yonko, etc. The only name everyone really knows is Whitebeard. They don't really know the names Kaido, Big Mom, Shanks, etc. Robin does because she's Robin, but most of them, they don't know about the Yonko, right? But one thing that people forget is that this moment, right? Your father's name is Monkey D. Dragon, the Revolutionary. There's a reason that for so long Dragon had the hype he did. Because this moment was the moment that stunned everyone. The reaction is on a totally different scale, and everybody knows Dragon. Doesn't matter who it is. Sanji, Nami, who did not know who Shanks was, Frankie, etc. Fucking Usopp. The fucking frog. This frog seems to know who Dragon is. Robin sweating. Again, none of this means pure strength, right? None of this means pure strength. This doesn't mean Dragon is stronger than Shanks. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that if you look at the chapter, right? It's all one chapter. It's chapter 432, Jack in the Box. It's called Jack in the Box. It's big reveals that are being let out of the box, right? In this same chapter, we're getting the Yonko explanation, but the Yonko explanation, in a way, it's meant to pale in comparison to the Dragon reveal. As though Dragon is almost supposed to be a bigger deal than these pirates, right? I'm just trying to give Dragon some credit because we all have sort of forgotten to some level, right? We all forgotten to some level of what that man used to be built up like, right? It used to be that you could have imagine this. You have a chapter where Oda is revealing the existence of the Yonko, the biggest pirates, the most powerful pirates in the entire One Piece world, kind of the biggest names in the One Piece world that we've kind of like built up to for so long, right? The Yonko. We get a chapter dedicated to revealing the Yonko, and they're not the highlight of the chapter. The biggest deal being revealed in that chapter is Dragon, right? That's something that's forgotten too often. That's something that I think is an interesting way of Oda framing things. I don't really have anything much more to say on that other than I don't think that means Dragon is stronger than the Yonko, but I would not be surprised if Dragon is stronger than, the best swordsman. Like, I don't think that would be surprising at all. I don't think it would be surprising if Dragon is stronger than Blackbeard is right now. I don't think it would be surprising if Dragon might be stronger than Akainu is right now. Just saying, I think he can fall on a lot of places in the scale, and just because Oda's not been making him look the coolest lately doesn't change the fact that initially Oda clearly wanted to introduce him with a degree of build-up and hype that surpassed even the Yonko.